I've been wondering for a really long time on how to do an intro for this video. I wanted it to be something awe-inspiring because this game deserves it. If you don't know me, I have extremely high praise for this game. I think this is probably my #1 game of all time, and my Twitch chat hates me for talking about NieR too damn much. As you saw from the thumbnail of the video, I call it a masterpiece, but just like all games goes, there is a few problems with the game that maybe some people would not really enjoy. However, I think the other parts of the game makes up the difference between the flaws and just how amazing this game is. With NieR Replicant coming around the corner and seeing how I cannot wait to play it, since I didn't get to play the previous NieR game, I thought, why don't I make a video for it? Here's what I found that makes NieR Automata a masterpiece. To talk about this game, I firstly want to talk about what made me get this game. There are two main reasons as to why I bought this game. One of them was the box art. I believe when you first take a look at the cover of this game, there are two different kinds of people. It's either, this looks like a weird generic looking game, I'm gonna step away from it. And the other is that there's a girl in some sort of maid outfit. It looks kinda hot, I'ma get it. If you know me, then I'm sure you know which person I am. On a more serious note, the other reason as to why I got this game was because this game had won the best score or music at the Game Awards in 2017. This game was competing with Persona 5, Breath of the Wild, and some others. This was a surprise to me because I know that Persona 5 music is very good. I enjoyed listening to quite a lot of the Persona 5 soundtracks, but NieR Automata had one against it. I was intrigued to listen to it, so I had tuned into one of the orchestral performances that I had found on YouTube thanks to one of Kotaku's posts about it. After having to listen to just a bit of it, I felt that there is something really special behind it, as it was quite different from other game soundtracks that I had listened to. I refused to listen to the rest of the soundtrack until I get the game, and boy, was I not prepared for what of the rest of the game would entail. The plot of this game is that humanity had fled to the moon because of an alien invasion on Earth. To combat this threat, humanity built an android army in their attempts to reclaim Earth from the aliens. You follow the story with the two androids 2B and 9S to fight back the alien army made of robots. Kinda sounds like your typical type of sci-fi story with robots and aliens, except that, we have a waifu robot. Also, you might be expecting an all-out war with absolute chaos everywhere fighting these robots, but it is not all that it seems. After the first opening sequence of the game, the environment that you land in is absolutely deserted and peaceful. Some of these robots don't even attack you unless provoked. This right here instantly just throws away the fact that there's a whole war between the two armies and that there must be something more to this war. I believe that not a lot of players would even think about this. I mean, even I did not think about it when I first started playing, so I just find it amazing. It simply changes the way you look at the story and makes you think, what other secrets is there in this game? Another element of the game story that I enjoyed are the side quests. Some of the side quests that you pick up throughout your playthrough of the game can have deep meanings behind them. Only if you pay attention to what they are saying and not mashing the button to skip the dialogue just to receive the rewards from the quest. Another unique thing that I find about the story is that it is based off an alternate ending from the previous NieR game, which in turn the previous NieR game was also based off an alternate ending from a game called Drakengard. Majority of games tend to not do this. Games like the Halo series where they just continue from the ending of the previous game, ultimately reaching the conclusion of the game's overall story when the game finally reaches the final version of the game. However, in here, they show off what if the story continued from that alternate ending. What are the new consequences of the story? What has happened to the world with this ending? I just love this idea of diving into a separate storyline from the main storyline. It's like taking a different timeline from the main timeline. It's like if you had made another decision than the decision you had chosen at the time, what would happen next? Just the thought of that is what I'd say makes the story of NieR Automata unique. And for those thinking that you might need to play the previous NieR game to know what is happening in here, you don't. The game does make some references later on, and it is explained only if you pay attention to the story. Now let's move on to the gameplay. At its core, this game is an RPG hack and slash. You're able to level up your character, gain new weapons, upgrade them, gain new abilities, and find chips that you obtain from the enemies to increase the overall performance of your character. I find the chips part kinda interesting because it fits well with the setting of the game. You could also remove some chips to not only make space for more, but to change the way the game is played. For example, removing the health bar chip removes the UI element from the game, meaning you won't be able to look at your health bar at all. I've never done this, but if you want to challenge yourself, then you can go ahead and do that. What makes the gameplay more interesting is the fact that this game incorporates other game genres to mix up the gameplay. Other games has done this as well. Take for example Call of Duty, when they added in stealth missions. It made the game's popularity shoot up because of these missions, which is why you might see those missions appear in Call of Duty every now and then. Now they only added in one game genre there, but in NieR Automata they added in a 2D platformer, a top-down hack and slash, and even a bullet hell sequence. That's 3 different game genres all in one place, and it's a pretty seamless experience. Like, the game doesn't need to load up an entire mission for it to become a 2D platformer, it just happens right there on the spot. Another gameplay feature that I really enjoyed is the New Game Plus mode. We all know what New Game Plus mode does, right? When you complete the game, any progress made to the character's level and upgrades are kept for when you play the game once again. However, in here, not only does it do that, but it allows you to play the game from a perspective of another character. And it also opens up the story even more. The first playthrough of the game is just the surface of the story, showing you the state of the world and introducing the characters. The second playthrough is 80% the same, except that they drip through additional story elements since you're playing through the game as another character, 9S. I feel that many players did not like the second playthrough of the game because of how similar it is to the first. I completely agree with them as well. Like, maybe they could have changed a bit more to the second playthrough rather than dripping additional story throughout the middle of the game. Now, as you draw closer to the end of the second playthrough, the game opens up even more, and then it leads to the third playthrough of the game. The third playthrough is where everything goes down, and when I mean it goes down, it goes down. This playthrough of the game extends upon the second ending, giving us even more food from the story. It's like when you see one fire explosion and then it blows up to reveal even more explosions. Thank God they didn't pull an EA on us, because otherwise you would probably have to pay for the third playthrough of the game. Now that would be ridiculous. But yeah, back to the game. The third playthrough is something that I heavily do not want to spoil for those that have not played it, because it is definitely worth playing. Do not sleep on it. NieR Automata changes up the game with this style of New Game Plus, and that is something very unique that I don't see other games do. Additionally, there are 26 endings in this game, with the 5 of them being main endings. The other endings are more of a joke, so if you don't have the time to do them, don't worry about it. Especially how a few of them are quite easy to obtain. For example, just dying counts as one of the 26 endings. Now this is where I have to say one kind of bad thing about this game, and that is the combat. Now don't get me wrong, the combat is pretty fluid, and mashing buttons and comboing between light and heavy attacks is very fun. Also, I feel like the combat is similar in regards to Bayonetta, because after all, Platinum Games did develop Bayonetta, so I guess they had some sort of input into this game. However, I do feel slightly empty when it comes to fighting enemies, since there isn't any combo list to go from, and most of the times you're just swinging for the purpose of swinging. Additionally, I do feel like There's just no point of killing enemies at times, even though they do help with gaining experience points that will level up your character. They can also drop in-game currency and those chips for increasing your stats. Other than that, it does feel bland at times, especially when comparing this combat with something like Devil May Cry, where the combat is very stylish and you feel like you just have to do combos. Whereas in Automata, it feels like being stylish in here doesn't matter too much, and you are just trying to kill your enemies as fast as possible. This is just my tiny flaw with the game and my opinion on it, so this small problem might not have affected other people who have played the game. However, as I said before, this flaw is minor compared to the rest of what makes this game amazing. As I said in the beginning of the video, the music of this game is what drew me in to play it. Before this game's original soundtrack, I enjoyed listening to Halo's original soundtrack. Halo's iconic soundtrack would bring back a sense of awe and fond memories of just chilling in the main menu and many other moments in the game. There have been a few other soundtracks I would listen to from other games like The Last of Us main theme track or The Witcher 3 Fields of Ard Skellig, if that's how you say it. But there have only been one single track from those games that I enjoyed at the time. NieR Automata's soundtrack is so unique. Each of the tracks has been constructed and used in such a creative way that you won't see many games do. Before, if you were to search up their soundtrack, you will find that the majority of the tracks is split up into 4 different versions. Nowadays it's kind of hard to search it up because of copyright issues. However, last I remember is that there would be 4 versions of a track and they would be labeled as quiet, medium, dynamic and 8-bit for whenever you use the hacking on 9S. Each of them being applied to various parts of the game where moments are increased either in excitement, tension, or many other situations. Not many games that I know of do stuff that is as creative as this. Some of the tracks that is used makes use of chaos language to sing the vocals of the song. If you guys don't know what chaos language is, it is basically a made-up language. A language that doesn't exist, as its purpose is just used to express emotions through your vocals that other languages cannot express. I had to obviously do some research on this, and I had to also look up how many languages are there in this world. There's about 7,000 languages in the world, and Emmy Evans, the songwriter and singer for this game, made up another language, only just for a couple of songs that is to be used in a video game. Now that right there is some dedication and showing her creative ability to make up a language just for a couple of songs. The Chaos language has been inspired by other languages, sounds, and rhythms according to Emmy Evans herself. She in fact watched and listened to a bunch of YouTube videos and made up her own language. Knowing just this fact already tells me why this game absolutely deserves the best soundtrack of the year. I also watched a video where they were interviewing Keiichi Okabe, the composer for the soundtrack of NieR, and he talked about an unwritten rule when it comes to background music in video games. The rule states that background music should not have any vocals, as the vocals can either not be heard when playing through the game, or it can mess the cutscenes as it will interrupt or clash when the player is trying to listen to both the characters and the music. I can totally understand that. If I take a look at the majority of other games during cutscenes, there would never be any kind of music with vocals being played. There might have been a few games that use vocals along with a cutscene, but vocals in NieR's music blends perfectly when listening in cutscenes. I and maybe a lot of other players would barely even notice that there are vocals being played in the music, because it's just that good. So much love and care has been put towards making the soundtrack of this game, to only think that this phenomenal music is just being played as background music for whenever you fight lower level enemies to bosses, and even just roaming around the world is ridiculous, in a good way. When you take a look at other games and their soundtracks, I would say A majority of them is just a single track that plays, and that's about it. Whereas this game has layers of tracks being used in multiple moments of this game. This is hard work at its finest when it comes to creating video game music. To think that according to the people that have played the previous NieR game, NieR Automata soundtrack is not as great as the soundtrack from the previous game. Now this is just what I have heard from other people, so I don't even know if they're right. And it's people's opinions on what they deem something that is better than the other. However, if that is the case, then I'm expecting the NieR Replicant Remaster soundtrack to win this year's Game Awards for Best Music. Also, I love the music too goddamn much. Not only did I purchase the orchestral arrangement, the Blu-ray disc of the NieR Orchestra concert, and the tiny music box that plays one of the tracks used in a small area that you find after completing a side mission, I also had the chance to attend the NieR Orchestra concert. It was an absolute blast and pleasure. Managed to see Keiichi Okabe, the composer for the NieR tracks, along with Yoko Taro, the game's director, and Emmy Evans herself was there as well. I remember when I was sitting there listening to the music being played, and it made me tear up, which goes to show how powerful their music can be. This game is too much. This game grabbed me with its compelling story and phenomenal music, so much that I needed to dive in even more. I needed to hear about all the info that the game offers. Just like how only recently someone managed to find a hidden cheat in the game. Just like how 2B, 9S, and A2 have hidden meanings behind their names. Just like how each mission can have deep philosophical meanings behind them, everything in the game is just wonderful. That's why I enjoy playing this game, and if you did not find this game interesting at all, then you have not dived deep enough for you to fully understand this game. As I too might be in the same position, but just a little bit more in the rabbit hole than you. Who knows how much more that I can hear or know about this game, because this game is just a beautiful world and I've never quite realized it as well.